Hey everyone, this is Fiona, and in this video I wanted to talk to you about my ayahuasca journey that I just did this past Wednesday. So that would be Friday, so 3 days ago I had this experience, and it was actually a solo experience. Hold on, the music is a little loud. It was actually a solo experience in Santa Cruz, and the other 4 times I'd always done it in a large group setting, and just because of my scheduling and school, I couldn't actually join the circle this time. So I actually asked for a solo session, and I had a very, very different experience doing it solo. And I went into this, the same. I think I had to do the diet for the whole week, no sugar, no salt, no oil, no masturbating, no sex, no violent video games, movies, a lot of alone time, a lot of reflection, asking yourself questions just about your intention for this whole journey. No red meat, no, sugary processed foods and stuff like that. And so I went into this experience. Usually I have a little bit of anxiety, a little apprehension before I go in, just because I know it's going to be intense. I know it's going to kick my ass. And this time I approached it kind of differently. It was like I had come to terms with, whatever shows up, I'm open to just completely holding myself in the space of compassion and love and support. Just whatever I need to see, whatever I need to realize and feel, if it's the highest of highs, it's the lowest of lows, or anything in between, I'm here, and I'm going to be there for myself. So my intention was basically to bring in more self-love, to bring in more self-compassion, self-care, and also be able to just let my experience do its thing, like not get in the way, not sabotage it, not judge it. With ayahuasca journeys, there's a lot of stuff that can come up, figuratively as well as metaphorically. And like me at a younger age, if I would have thrown up in front of someone, that would have been so humiliating and embarrassing, and I wouldn't have allowed myself to do that. And just because this was me by myself with the facilitator, with the shaman, it was like, okay, now it's time to really let go. Let's go really deep into this and see what happens. And so I first did the breathwork session. So that was like an hour and a half. There's a lot of breathing, and you're yelling, you're crying. There's a lot of emotions that are surfacing. And I felt a lot of this kind of like helplessness, a lot of the sadness. And it was kind of that thing with my gut, my lower gut. It's always kind of been this thing where, there's this feeling of dread and anxiety, and it's always been this lower belly part. And I saw where it was like this diamond shaped thing. And it was like when my mom had given birth to me, I was a cesarean birth. She had actually left part of, I don't know if it was the placenta or something that was like left inside of me. And so it was like that birth trauma was still in me. And so I kind of felt like it was like her fear, her pain, her anxiety, and all that stuff from giving birth. Because she had always said it was a very traumatic experience for her. It was very painful. She thought she was going to die, very, very dramatic. And plus she was cut open right there. So in that same spot. So it was like, I was kind of feeling that kind of energy. And there was just this insensitivity of the doctor who kind of pulled me out of her belly. And it just felt like it was, just kind of crude. It didn't really treat the process of birth as something sacred. And so there's kind of this anger of like boundaries being crossed as well, and not acknowledging the connection, baby and mama kind of connection. So that's kind of what showed up in the breathwork session. And then from there, there's another part of that where I was kind of grieving the fact that my mom had gotten the vaccine, and I was like, no, hold off on that. I want you to, really, really think this through. And so there's a part of like grieving, like, oh, I miss that, you know, essence of my mom. I feel like I don't know, when we're putting stuff, foreign stuff in our bodies, I mean, this is a very different vaccine. The COVID vaccine is very different than our typical tuberculosis vaccine, all that stuff. It's an mRNA based vaccine, and it's so experimental, and there's just a lot of red flags that are kind of going. But that's why I wanted her to wait, you know. So the next part, you know, it was like talking about my intention, and yeah, it was about moving into the space of self-love. You know, the more I can move into this place of self-love, the more I can give my gifts and give love to the world more openly and more freely. And yeah, I just wanted to really see what it would mean to fully surrender to this experience, go full in, not holding back, just letting go. You know, there's the past 4 times there have been some really terrifying moments in my journey, and this time, you know, I was prepared. I was prepared to go right into it, full, you know, just head on. So, you know, I spoke my intentions, and I had the ayahuasca in my hand, the brew in my hand, and I took a bit more than I normally take. And I remember having a conversation, telepathic conversation with the brew right before I drank it. I said, okay, just make sure we're on the same page. You know, I'm open to receiving whatever lessons, whatever I need to see, whatever things need to come through me to be released. I'm here, I'm just a vessel, please work through me. So I drank it, and the beginning part, it was kind of, you know, very, very mild. You know, I was seeing some visionary stuff, like I was seeing eyeballs in the floor, like looking at me. There were eyeballs in my palms of the hand, and it just felt like these different shapes. And then that diamond shape kept showing up, and it kept like, I wasn't seeing anything with my eyes open yet, but when my eyes were closed, I could see these almost like sacred geometry of these diamond things, the same thing that was stuck in my stomach. And, you know, it kind of progressed and went on like this for a little bit while, and I didn't feel nauseous at all, actually, in the first 4 hours. It was like I started to feel this intense connection and bliss and love energy emanating from my whole being. And it was like I was giving out this energy, and it's like I had to give out this energy. It was just so much love. I remember, you know, reaching out to my family, to my friends, to my teachers, to, you know, former lovers, and just sending them this love, like, hey, I have so much love and affinity for you, and just holding each person like in the palm of my hand, and just adoring them and loving them. And I did this for about 4 hours. I was even sending energy to President Trump, to President Biden, Kamala Harris, all the politicians. It was just like, I'm sending love to the whole world, and it was really magical. I saw, I guess, like the concept of the devil was basically, I was sending love to the devil, and it was just this like, the image that I kept seeing was just like this multiplying, like exponential, like lotus leaf of infinity in my heart, of just this like love just constantly blossoming. And it was just like I couldn't keep up. I had to give out so much love. I just needed to just give it to the whole world. Even like perpetrators in the past, I was just like, hey, I love you. I'm sending you so much love. There's just a sense of forgiveness and just letting go, and just seeing each person, you know, seeing the wounded child in the person, and just fully embracing them. Yeah, I wrote down actually quite a bit in my journal, but I want to kind of, you know, make sure I cover everything. Yeah, it was just this joy in my body. It was like I remember my facilitator shaman said, you were smiling for 4 hours, your teeth were showing, you just had this huge grin on your face, and it was just like you were totally blissed out. And I knew that, like, I was like, wow, this is really going great. This is like completely different than my other journeys. This is not how the rest of them have gone. And it just felt like it was just like going on and on, and all this love energy. Even the stuff that was a little bit scary, there were some, I don't know, there were some kind of creepy faces that I saw that were kind of morphed and had weird eyes, and I just sent them love, and it was almost like it froze the frame of the person or the being, and it just like, it kind of like just became neutralized. And so I did that. Anything that was scary, I would just send it love. I remember seeing the statue of like this half man, half horse kind of being, I just sent it love. Even I saw this woman that was like morphed into half zebra, half tiger, half plant leaf. She was really very fun and wild and kind of out there. And I also had a very lovely telepathic conversation with my grandma, who's been gone for over 10 years. And it was her head. It was interesting because it was like her upper body attached to like a fairy body. So she had like wings and she was like flying around, but it was like her face, these like big wings. And yeah, was so full of joy and happiness, and she was just so happy. I was so happy to see her. She was so happy to see me, and it was just like this, oh, I missed you. But it was like she hadn't been gone. It was like she was always in my life. She was, and it was just the energy was just so beautiful. It was radiant, and there was just so much passion and fun and love. I'd not felt this much love and connection. And I remember having this realization, what holds the universe together, what holds everything together is love. Like, what created this whole world, this universe? I mean, that's incredible if you think about it, how this was all created. It's kind of it's a miracle. And I just remember saying, like, life is so incredible. Like, this is so amazing. Like, the universe, how it's all put together. It was like I had this gratitude, this deep gratitude for all of life, all of the universe, and just joy for being alive right now. And it was unlike anything I've ever felt. Unlike any other drugs, plant medicines out there, I feel like ayahuasca, for me, goes by far the deepest into the other realms, into, at one point there was the music turned off, and I remember like, it kind of like shook me up a little bit because the music was very grounding. It was kind of like keeping me connected to my experience. And I remember like that's when things got really intense. And this was my second glass of ayahuasca, and that's when things really started going really deep. Like, it was like going pretty good for a while, and all of a sudden it like shot right up. And this is when my whole world started to, it's like pull apart. It was like the time space continuum was all morphed, and it was like I was in a body, but then I wasn't a body. And because I remember Attila he said at one point, like, come back to the breath, because I remember like, this is the part where I freak out because I feel like I don't know how to breathe anymore and I'm dying, and this is scary, and help me. But this was when I was like, hey, you know what? This is that scary part, but it's so cool when you surrender fully to it. And I knew I was going to be taken care of. I knew that whatever happened, I'd be fine. I would survive this. This was, it would be okay. I would be safe. I was protected. I did feel like there were, I don't know, maybe other forces that were also kind of keeping this whole thing safe, because when it starts to open up like that, when these other dimensions start to open up and your ego is dissolving and your time space warp field is all like being stretched out and you don't know where you quite are, and it's kind of dizzying, it's kind of I don't know, it's like you're being pulled in so many different dimensions. I'm having trouble explaining it, and I know the ego wants to try to explain it and grasp what happened, but I would say that what happened is like there's just nothing else that has gotten me to kind of visit these other realities, these other dimensions quite like this. It's pretty mind-blowing is an understatement. It's like your whole reality of everything, of the whole universe is completely changed. And I was like no longer I was no longer me. It was like I was now part of this web of creation. And I could see how in the past this was very terrifying. You know, like I'm still here. I want to be a human. And I remember in the past I would be touching myself. I'd be like, okay, I'm still here. I'm in my body. I'm still a human. And for this experience, I totally let go. I completely just, forgot that I had a body and I was off into outer space. I don't know how long, because I remember at one point I was like, I sat up, I was like, it's time to purge. And I had the bucket and I just started dry heaving, and it was the most painful, not fun experience of my entire life of purging. I kept purging, and it was feeling like I was scraping the bottom of the barrel of what was in my gut, my lower gut. So the whole time, the 4 hours, I was blissed out on love and just sending everyone love. And it was like the fourth chakra and above had been separated, and that was all fun and games and butterflies. And it was like Grandma Ayahuasca was like, okay, you've had your fun, but now it's time to get back on the body and actually, release anything that's not in alignment with this, your highest vibration of this love energy and this abundance. And so that's when I started to feel all that dread and all that pain, and it just felt like I was dying. It felt so it was challenging. And I know right before I purged, I saw this creature come out of my lower abdomen. It was it had like a black monkey face, and it had spider legs that were metal, and it looked like it was extraterrestrial, like it had been put in my lower abdomen. I have thoughts of who it could be, but I'm not going to, it's out of my system. But the thing is, it like crawled, it got sucked out of my lower abdomen, and I just said, oh, this weird creature just came out of my lower gut and like walked away. It was almost looked like the shape of a virus, like with the head, but it was like a monkey's head that was all black, and then the legs were like metal, and it was like a spider. So after that happened, that's when I started like, okay, it's time to purge. The love and everything, the abundance and the blissing out is coming to an end. Now it's time to be in the body. And I was just like, let's go for it. I'm gonna purge. Okay, here's the bucket. And it kept going. Like I remember purging, and I was like, well, there's nothing left inside of me. Why am I still like, like trying to like vomit? And it just felt like there was just the bottommost part of that was just still in there, and it needed to come up, and it had to come up a little at a time, because I didn't drink any water during this, and you do get really thirsty when you journey, and they tell you not to drink water because it can dilute the medicine, but also it can make you throw up more. So I actually didn't have any water during it, and then so when it was like just like trying to throw up and stuff, I remember like Facilitator coming over and was like, are you done throwing up? And I said, no, no. And I like laid down with the bucket, like my head in the bucket, and I was just like, I tried to spit, and then like I think I got all over my face and everything, and he had to like wipe my face. But it was just like I was so helpless. I was so like, when is this going to be done? Getting frustrated. And then I started smiling because at that point I was like, grandmother ayahuasca likes to play games, is kind of a jokester because, it was so blissful. It was so amazing the first 4 hours. Now it's like, I can't just have the fun, happy stuff. I have to also face the dark stuff. And so that's why I think the lesson was here. It was like, we're going to come back into the body and you're going to feel. So it was like every cell of my body was feeling this like ringing out feeling every time I purged or dry heaved. And it was like, she wanted me to be very present with that because I don't like throwing up. I don't know many people that like throwing up, but sometimes it can be a very cathartic process. But actually, when I was younger, I used to have all sorts of stomach problems like gastroenteritis, nausea, upset stomachs. Like I was eating all the wrong foods, so it didn't help. But I used to take like Tums or Emitrol or what's the other thing? Pepto-Bismol to kind of like keep the food down instead of like throwing up when I probably should have thrown up. I would just like, just push it down and ignore it. And it was like that upset stomach feeling, that feeling of dread was usually associated when I had to do things that I didn't want to do. Things in school, things with sports, things with friends, things with former lovers. So it was like this dread of like, I have to go through this. But I just kind of would suck it up and then kind of face it, I guess. But yeah, so it's like I remember Facilitator coming over and said like, you could probably use some of that self-love from earlier in the session, bring some of that in right now, that'd probably be really useful. Because I felt like I got kind of a little bit grumpy. I was like, paper towel! I like needed to wipe my face. I was like, okay, new bucket. This one's full. So yeah, it was just like, I was exhausted. I mean, it was beyond like, I had just been, and I just remember like, okay, God, I didn't say it was a nightmare, but I said, this is tough. This is not easy. And I've never been this sick before. And he's like, how about we rephrase that? This is not you sick. This is you getting rid of the toxins that have been in your body for a really long time. And that was totally true. And that's when I started to smile between throwing up. And yeah, it was just like the image I saw was just like, it was like divided in 4 parts, but it was like my guts were ringing out. And I remember just like, gosh, why do I have to be so present for this? It was like I could feel everything, I could hear everything, the sounds, the smells, and the feeling in the body. If you feel that little amount of whatever energy that needs to come up and it's still in there, but your body's like exhausted, but it's like trying to get it up. And I finally got to a point where I was just like, yeah, throwing up, it's just another thing, like going to pee or something. Like it just became another human function. Yeah, I would say that, after about 2.5 hours and me just lying there with the bucket, I kept seeing like a lot of tiger energy, like the tiger, like the feline energy of really kind of intense energy. Like cats always kind of know what they want. They're not like dogs, where dogs are very like, attention deprived. Cats, it's almost like they're extraterrestrials, and they're very independent. They're very seductive. They're very kind of, I don't know. It's just, they're not as upfront as dogs are. They're not the same energy. It's very different. So I saw a lot of tiger energy, and it was kind of like coming from all four corners. At one point I saw myself, this is before the purge, I kind of separated into two different sections. There was the blissful part for 4 hours, and then the purging for 2.5 hours. And I saw myself as a dragon, and I like looked down and I saw my wings. And then I saw that like I could breathe out fire, and it was like, oh my gosh, like I'm a dragon right now. Just really powerful energy coming through. It was just so healing. I think that having the solo session, was like 100 times more powerful, just because I am that sensitive person in the group who, if I hear other people like crying and moaning and puking and all that stuff, my focus goes to them. And it's a thing that has to do with boundaries, where I don't have strong aura boundaries. And I've been trying to work on this, and it's because I'm very empathetic and I feel other people's energies. But how can I notice the energy and also not take it on? Just like, oh, okay, good, that person's barfing or something. Okay, that's fine. Or that person's moaning, or that person's talking right now. How can I just allow that to happen but come back to myself? So that's been a challenge. I do think that, let's see what else. Oh, right at the end of the session, so my facilitator usually like plays, like does the hand drum stuff to kind of bring you back. And I still wasn't back. I was still like, oh, I'm still way, way out there. And, it's kind of tried to bring me back to reality. And I remember saying, like, there's nothing else that is like this journey. Like, there can't be. I mean, even like a hero's dose of mushrooms or Molly or LSD doesn't get you quite like this. I feel like there's something about ayahuasca where, combined with the purging aspect, heals you on such a deep level. And the visuals, yes, it's very cool to see visuals, and I feel like they're very intense with ayahuasca. They go along with kind of teaching you or showing you the wisdom that you need to see. So the thing about plant medicines is that you use them, you gain all this wisdom, and then what do you do with that wisdom? You want to bring it back so you can apply it to your life. But I remember talking to my facilitator, and I was just in awe at the experience. And I said that like that ayahuasca brew was very, very, very strong. And he said that he had just brewed it recently. So when you do it recently, it is stronger. And he'd also mixed vitamin C in with the brew. And plus I was actually drinking vitamin C crystals in my water coming to the ceremony, because I wasn't allowed to take my allergy medicine. So I've been using vitamin C. And so vitamin C actually makes it a lot stronger. So I probably did some of that on my own end. Yeah, I think the most difficult part was just the purging part, and it just was like dry heaving and that motion in your body were just wringing out your guts for 2.5 hours. Like in the past, the first time it was just, maybe lasted for 5 or 10 minutes and I was done. 2.5 hours. I mean, the next day my head hurt and my stomach, my diaphragm muscle hurt, because it was like I could, like if I coughed, it would be like, ouch, that's sore. So it was just the fact that it was just so little coming up. It was like I had to work so hard to get the little that was in me out. But yeah, I think that like having a sense of humor this time for this journey really helped, and being open to the whole experience. I was thinking like, oh, cool, I get this amazing blissed out love feeling, this vibrant energy, and I'm sending it to everyone. And the fact that like, it's like, okay, you had your fun, time to like do the hard work now. It is kind of funny. I mean, I have to like say that grandmother ayahuasca has a sense of humor. And I'm glad that I could actually laugh while I was like going through some of this stuff. And I think that being the blissed out stage for the first 4 hours really helped me be able to handle the purging part better. Because I remember I was like, I want this to be done. This is not fun. So yeah, just getting out all the gunk that's been in your cells for a really long time. Because I know that afterwards, it was like my third chakra was so clean and clear, and it was like this vibrant energy. I had so many ideas of like things I wanted to create. Like I had an idea for a book I wanted to write, and like how I wanted to turn this experience into a piece I'm working on. It was just like the clarity of ideas was so strong, and I feel like, you know, I've relied on caffeine and ginkgo to kind of get me through, especially school. But I feel like that the third chakra, when it's cleared up like this, it does, you don't need those stimulants to help you. It's like it's its own, you know, furnace. So yeah, just the fact that I had zero judgment about my whole process, you know, I mean, I was like a baby at one point where I had to have my facilitator like wipe my mouth for me and kind of you know, he was pretty like not very involved in the experience. Like he kind of let me in a way facilitate myself, because I said I had a dream where I was actually administering medicine to people, and it was like at an ayahuasca ceremony. I never saw myself in this position, and I was like talking to a woman who was in tears and struggling, and I was also giving out the medicine to the people. And so I wanted to kind of wear that hat, like what would it be like to be a facilitator? Not that I am going to do that, but it was just something that I wanted to try. So it was like he kind of gave me full reign. Have your experience, you're in a safe place, you know, I'm here if you need me. And I remember like in the past I'd been like, I need your help, please, you know, hold my hand, be close. And this time it was like, hey, I can handle this, you know, I've got it taken care of. I know that I am a strong person, that I will survive this, that this is going to pass. The most difficult parts are going to pass. And just afterwards, I just felt so cleaned out, so clear, just love drunk and excited. Like it was almost like I had this renewed joy that I don't think I've ever felt. Maybe as a kid I felt this level of joy, but it was like this, wow, life is amazing. This is so happy. Like I want to tell the world about this. This is like, if everyone did this, how different the world would be. And I'm just glad that I was able to, like, I felt like people were kind of praying for me during this process, you know, just I kind of felt the energy of like, hey, it's really safe. Let go deep, heal the traumas and the wounds, and, you know, use that love and reprogram all the stuff that says you shouldn't give love and receive love. So it's just like this whole reprogramming of being able to freely give love and unconditional love. You know, I was giving love to politicians, you know, I was just like, to the devil, to the concept of the devil. I was just like, hey, I love you, you know, just so much joy. Yeah, just I was able to use this love to neutralize anything that was scary. And there were some scary things, just, you know, creepy faces and beings that kind of showed up, but, you know, sending it love, it froze it and neutralized it, and it was fine. Yeah, so I'm just trying to see what else, if there's anything else I should cover. Oh, gosh. Yeah, just in the past, I feel like I was kind of maybe holding back in my journey, just like holding on to my body. Because I remember like the first experience, like, oh my God, I need to touch my body, make sure I'm still here, I'm still alive. But this time it was just like, you know, I'm out there, I'm gone, and my body will be fine. My body knows how to breathe. And it was just this like surrender, true surrender. I've never surrendered like this before, but it was magical. And when you're in a safe space, that's when I felt like it was easy for me to surrender. In a group setting, not as much. And I think that's the lesson I need to work on is, can I surrender in front of a group in public? I can do it when I'm alone, but can I do it in front of people, around people who are also going through their stuff? So that's what I'm working towards. But yeah, just the dissolving of the ego is by far the craziest thing, and it just bends your whole concept of what you are, what life is, the whole meaning of this. And for me, it is, oh gosh. I wish I was a visual artist, because I could draw it and I could convey what I saw, because it just, but it was the feeling too. It was just like this huge expansion of awareness of like, hey, I'm part of this whole web of creation, but then I'm here as a body, but then yeah, I'm still, but yeah, when I did get into that space again, I was like, oh, this is familiar. This is when I said, holy shit, I've never tripped so hard in my life. And my facilitator's like, you're journeying, not tripping. So yeah, I had a really good talk with my facilitator afterwards, just saying like, just thank you so much, Grandmother Ayahuasca, for these gifts, from this journey. It was life-changing. I do feel like this was probably the biggest life-changing experience I've had. And I know I've said that about the previous experiences, but I know for sure this one, because I went so deep into it, and I was able to surrender and be surrounded and feel this love energy and give it out, and also just hold space for myself so that I could let go of what I had been carrying around for, who knows, generations. And I even got mad at like my ancestors. I was like, my ancestors haven't done shit. And then here I am, like, working on the shit, like the buck stops here. Like, no more this like sex slavery, this not speaking up, this, getting into disempowering relationships, marriages, whatever. It's like my ancestors have not been doing their work. And so it's like, so therefore I have to do it, and I have to purge for all of them. I have to kind of do the healing so that I can free up that lineage, so that it can be rewritten, or so from here on it's different, so it doesn't go in that same trajectory. Gosh, I wrote so much. I remember like after I was alone, it was like I couldn't sleep until probably 4 a.m. just because my mind was so active, and I wrote so much. And I was like, oh, I would totally pay for my mom or dad to go on this experience, just because they have so much trauma. Like, my dad was sexually assaulted by his own father, who was, gay during a time when it was not acceptable. My mom was orphaned at a very young age. Her whole family was killed. And both of my parents have this deep level of denial and like, oh, we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to do anything, no healing work. So I feel like, man, if they went through this experience, how that would change their life. I just know, to face all their fears. I know this is not for everyone. I know that this can be a very, very, very terrifying, is an understatement, experience, because your whole reality kind of gets blown open and blown apart and expanded and rewired and rewarped. But I had a mock-up that the session would be a game changer on so many levels, and it totally happened. My relationship with the medicine was very different. In the past I was fearful and hesitant, and this time I drank it. I said that small prayer right before, just to make sure we were on the same page. And I have just an awe and appreciation for life, universe, creation. Love is what connects everything together. And I remember the huge smile on my face when I felt the abundance of love and joy. I sent that love to the devil and to the half man, half horse statuesque being. I had so much love, I didn't know what to do with it. So I feel like I want to write a book on this, like music and surrender plus ayahuasca plus being a composer. I feel like the ideas are powerful and plentiful and exciting, and I've not felt this level of joy since maybe childhood. It's level of magical support, being connected, peace, love, joy, the whole ego death. It's like, you're going through some process, but is it a dream or reality? And how did I get here? I remember when I was like really confused and really like, where the hell am I? That's when I'm like, oh, right, I did ayahuasca. This is ayahuasca. It's so, like, the first time I was like, I'm losing my mind. Who am I? Did I die? and it was terrifying. I remember panicking, but this time it was like the melting of fractals, and they would multiply exponentially and pull apart, and that, I don't know, that's like me trying to describe the dissolving of the ego. But you access your subconscious so deeply with this, that it's just amazing. And I said this was by far the strongest ayahuasca brew, more intense in the first session by a lot. I'm just thinking about all the gunk people are walking around with without even knowing it. How do I bring this wisdom back to the 3D world? There's so much wisdom. I want to do a piece about this, you know, how it kind of starts very lighthearted and happy, and then it kind of goes very dark. And then there's kind of the surrendering. Oh, man. Yeah. Just, you know, ayahuasca isn't as hellish as people project it to be. Everyone's like, oh, you're puking the whole time and it's not fun. But you know what? It's a quite profound experience. And I would say that you're not, the puking is because you're getting out the shit that's in your cells. Like, you're on a very deep level, ancestral stuff. So it's like rewiring your connection with what it means to be sick, because when you're sick, it's like you're actually getting rid of the things that no longer serve you. So yeah, I remember the first time I did ayahuasca being in the nightmare sequence, and this time I just fully let go and went into it full on. So yeah, it's powerful. You're healing the trauma that causes the addiction or whatever post-traumatic stress, anxiety, or anything, you know. There's actually a book that I just finished reading that I'll probably do a book review on. But let me just see. Okay. Yeah. I've been talking for 42 minutes. Wow. Yeah. So the thing with, you know, the last thing I want to say was about talk therapy. You know, talking about your problems is important. I think it's the tip of the iceberg, though. I think that the real stuff is in the body, in our organs, you know, in our core, in our being, in ourselves. And talking is just, you're in the head the whole time. And I think if you have like traumas and stuff like that, you got to get to the body. So I feel like talk therapy is the tip of the iceberg, but I feel like with something like this, plant medicine, where you really dive in deep, you feel what's in your body. It's like a million times more powerful and more effective. Yeah, I just, it's funny because a lot of my friends are like, you know, the first time I did it, they're like, oh, you're doing hardcore drugs now, aren't you? And it's like, no, these are plant medicines. And in fact, in South America, you know, we call it medicine because your soul is sick. And the book that I'll do a book review on, it is actually a doctor from UCLA, and he also did some training at UC San Diego, where he does his his dissertation on ayahuasca in South America. And he talks about how people have these, you know, in the Western medicine, the emotional body is completely forgotten. You know, it's like we don't address emotions and stuff that's in the body, that's been imprinted there. We just look at the symptom. Therefore, people are going to continue being sick. So I think that ayahuasca is not for everyone, for sure. It's the most intense of the psychedelics. But it's gotten easier to navigate since the first time I did it. And yeah, I mean, after that session, I was like, oh, I'm so glad. It was like a huge relief. Like, oh my gosh, it's done with. Because it felt like it was going on and on and on. And I tried to laugh at myself at like, okay, the whole situation it's funny. It's very funny. But there are some very tough moments, like 2.5 hours, that were hard to get through. But it was like oh my God, I survived that. But I don't want to think of it that way, because it's like this, I wanted to go deep. I wanted to completely surrender to the process. And see what would happen. And I got a very deep healing as a result of it. And so I feel like to say like, oh, it's this horrible experience, it doesn't do it justice, because yeah, you go through some stuff, some very difficult stuff, but when you're done with it, it's like, oh, I was carrying around all that shit in my body. Like, I feel so light now. I feel like I'm free of that. So, yeah, I'm kind of worried when everyone says like, oh, it was like really hard. Yeah, it kicks your ass, but in a good way. And sometimes that's what we need to truly heal from our wounds and traumas and stuff. All right, thank you for watching this very, very long video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one.